Welcome to Echocast and welcome Dr. Linsey Donner and Marnie Imhoff from the University of Nebraska Medical Center. Linsey is an assistant professor of microbiology. Marnie is an assistant professor and associate program director in the Division of Medical Laboratory Science. And both are recipients of a 2022 Echo 360 Innovation Grant, which they'll speak more of today here, and how it will further advance the innovative work that they've been leading for a while now at the school to raise the engagement and equitable learning experiences for their medical laboratory science program students. Now, prior to joining the ranks of higher education, Linsey was on the front lines of science as a microbiologist and a medical laboratory scientist, accruing a slew of certifications and degrees along the way, including her PhD from UNMC in 2021. And Marnie's journey within higher education has been equally interesting and impressive. She's held a number of operations and management positions where her degrees, not only in medical technology, but also her MBA and her master's in higher education administration have, I'm guessing, come in quite handy to this little dynamic duo that we have here, doing some great things for the grateful students at UNMC. So they're both also longtime champions, literally and figuratively champions here at Echo 360 for inspired learning, good friends of ours. And so please welcome Marnie Imhoff and Dr. Linsey Donner. Hey, guys.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction.
Wow,
Never felt so special.
well, thank you both for sharing your work here and everything that you're doing and for sharing it here in Echocast. So let's kind of jump right in. Before, and I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this are like, oh my gosh, I've seen them before, and because you have been such a long time advocates and champions for inspired learning. So, and the specific grant that you just received is going to be extending a program that you've already had in place for a while. So let's maybe kind of level set. Let's get a little benchmark of take us back a little bit and tell us the origin story maybe of how you first started working with Echo 360 on the video learning front, and kind of how that program, we'll call it phase one for now, has been working, the feedback that you've been getting, and then we'll kind of talk about where you're going to take it moving forward.
We did start using Echo 360 several years ago. We've been using it for a while, so I can't even remember the exact date or time frame we started using it, but we started pretty slow. It was just really, we were using it to record lectures that our students can watch asynchronously, because our program, it's a little bit different. It's a hybrid program. At one point we're in person, but that's really where we started. It was just recording lectures that we could post into our learning management system. And then I believe in 2018, Linsey and I had applied for another grant through Echo 360, their Champions program. And that's where we really took it to the next level. We continued to record lectures, but that's really, we got into the transcript process, providing our students the closed captioning. And we really started to look at how the videos and the transcripts impacted our students' learning. Did it increase their engagement? How did that impact their scores? And like you said, we're really into engaging our students to get them to that deeper learning, that critical thinking process that's really essential in healthcare. And we felt that the videos and those engagement techniques that we were using, as, for example, the active learning platform, the polling platform within Echo, started to allow us to do that. And our next step is with this new grant that we received.
Yeah. So how about, like for Linsey, I'll put you on the spot, as now an instructor and somebody who's actually, leading the educational experience for students, you were one of those students. How much of what you're doing now and where you kind of want to take your work is influenced, if at all, by your own personal experience as a learner coming up through the years?
That's a good question. So I'm traditionally learning in the classroom, both in person and posting lectures tends to be what they call passive learning, where the student is just sitting there listening to the lecture and absorbing that information, where Echo 360, the video learning platform, has additional tools which help us engage the students. And we are big advocates for engagement, as Marnie said. So we use embedded polling in the recorded lectures, which helps keep students engaged if they're watching an online lecture. And then also, a lot of our in-person classes, we've used what's called the flipped classroom, where they watch the recorded lectures at their own time when they're ready to learn, and also provides the ability to pause and replay those lectures in case they didn't hear something correctly or need to reinforce that information. But then we use our in-classroom time to work through like a case study, or and then we use the polling to engage the audience and create that visual learning experience for them so they can actively learn in the classroom. But then also, me as an instructor, it helps me identify those students that may not be understanding the information, because through those polling questions, I can see the concepts that they are getting and those they're not, ones that we need to discuss further, or identifying those students that are struggling before we get to like the high stakes exams or before they go out to their clinical rotation. So we're using the learning tools through Echo 360 to match that pedagogy, what fits best, to help facilitate that learning process for the student, which is different than kind of our traditional learning.
Yeah. Well, and, and utilizing all the different sort of tools, but also in the way that you just described, in attending to the different learning styles, the different learning environments. Obviously COVID threw everybody into a little bit of a different environment. I would imagine that you've got some great, whether formal or informal, just data points around how this is creating, kind of leveling the playing field a little bit and helping everybody learn, however they need to learn. Have you been seeing how, the combination of both the asynchronous and synchronous, the tech, that, is it helping everybody get the comprehension, everybody get the content however they most need to get it?
With our last grant with Echo, we did do some research around it, looking at how video views corresponded to course grade, exam grades. And we did find that the more that the students watched the videos, the more that their exam scores did increase and their course grade did increase. From our evaluations from the students, the one thing that they do like about the fact that we have all of our lectures recorded, they can watch them when they're ready to engage with the material. They can pause the videos, take notes as they want to, and they can rewind also. They can go back and watch sections that are really confusing to them. And what is nice is we can see, like, through the hotspots that the videos have, we can see where a student is rewatching something. So that engages me as a instructor to say, okay, this material is very confusing to students. And as Linsey said, we embedded questions. And that's where we started embedding questions into the videos, because we knew that was material students were having a hard time grasping. So we're hoping those questions would allow them to apply that material right then and there, so that they're like, oh, okay, now I get it, because I'm applying it and I see how it's applied in real life now.
Yeah. It's so cool. So how now with this next grant, with this next phase, talk a little bit about where now you want to take what is already sounding like a great program, doing great things. What's the next step now with laddering up the engagement even further?
So through the Echo Innovation Grant, we plan to increase or kind of diversify the engagement options that we have for the students. So currently we mostly use the polling feature through Echo 360, but we are interested in providing other avenues for engagement. And that could be anything from gamification to whiteboards. Dojo 360 is some of the software that we've chosen to implement, and we're hoping to create kind of continuous and seamless learning modules, which help facilitate that learning process for the students. And that will help us increase that engagement and deepen their quality of learning.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we can't wait to see how that works. So great stuff, great program, great stuff ahead. How about the two of you? As I mentioned in the intro, you've been working together now, this dynamic duo. You come, obviously, you're both professors. You both got the science background, but you do seem to have different, complementary experiences and skills. How did you guys ever come together in the first place? It seems that partnership seems to be working as well. So maybe just talk a little bit just about how this little partnership started, however many years ago.
Well, Linsey and I didn't know each other before we joined the medical laboratory science program. Linsey was in the program before I joined it. I'm a graduate of the program itself, and so is Linsey. So we had that background of how we knew we were taught when we went through the program. And I think really we tend to think, I don't want to say alike, but we have a lot of the same beliefs. And when it comes to how we approach teaching students, and I think it would just evolve naturally, our conversations and our interest in how to better teach students. Kind of going back to the question you had asked Linsey earlier, how our teaching style differs from how we were taught. Going way back when I was a student undergrad, we didn't have any recorded lectures. It was all live, and I was forced to write notes. And I just remember always feeling like I was missing half of what I was supposed to be learning because I couldn't write fast enough and listen at the same time. And I think some of that, how she and I were talking about how we were delivering the material at the time, kind of asking our students to do that, and then struggling with why are they not understanding what we want them to understand, and looking at the solutions that were being offered to our campus, one of which was Echo. That really, I think, got our relationship rolling, because we're like, let's enter into this together and support each other through implementation of our ideas.
Yeah.
Yes, I always tell Marnie that we lift each other up professionally and that we are excellent collaborators, and that we work well together and kind of have the same thought process, but we're both very passionate about engaging the learners. But then when we talk, it's almost like we complement each other, and that we just have these wonderful ideas and epiphanies as we're, having conversations on the best practices for educating our students.
Fantastic. Well, that's the partnership. Obviously, it comes through. It's loud and clear. And so, even though it's a great partnership and you complement each other very well, this last little question, I'm going to make each of you answer it individually, and depending on who goes first, I don't know who's going to have the advantage, because we're going to try to have different answers. Okay. So at the end of every Echocast, we ask our guests, based on the great work that they're leading, what's the one kind of main point, kind of the inspiration point. We kind of like to have fun with it. Whether it's a piece of advice or a piece of learning, but if you could just leave all of our viewers here with just one thing to either remember or take with them, what would be that as it relates to the work that you're leading? And so you're each going to get a chance you're each going to answer this. And again, we're going to try. So like, for example, the second person who answers can't just say, oh yeah, that's what I was going to say. Okay. So you're going to have to think on your feet here. So Linsey, why don't you go first? What's your inspiration point for the work that you're leading there?
Oh, I have so many. I guess my inspiration point would be find what you are passionate about and where your students possibly are struggling, and make that connection into how you can bridge that gap. Does that make sense? So, I'm very passionate about student engagement, but then also with clinical microbiology, it's like putting all the pieces together to solve a puzzle. So how do I get students from point A to point B using that learning technology? So my favorite learning feature with Echo 360 is the polling. So I've gone, 100% with case studies and using the polling feature to figure out, what students, where they're struggling and what concepts they know. So that way we can spend time on those concepts that they don't know when I have them in class and I'm with them, to get them to the point that they're ready to take the exam or ready to go to the clinical laboratory and work through and manipulate patient cultures. So.
Got Got it. All right, Marnie, how about you? And remember, you can't say ditto. So what's your inspiration point? Right.
Well, I do agree with everything that Linsey did say, but I think my inspiration point is, or the way that I always try to frame myself is when I see a student and that light bulb is going off in their head, but based on something that I've created and done. So I always try to look for that as my inspiration of what I'm creating and what I'm trying to reach. And the goal is, how can I make those light bulbs go off for every student? Not that I always get to every student getting that light bulb to go off. And I think Echo 360 has really allowed me to create that with the student by having assets that reaches every student with their learning style, be it if they want to read the transcript instead of watching the video, because they learn by reading. I think that's a great inspiration for me, because I've allowed them that they can watch it if they're an auditory learner, or they can read the transcript if they're they learn through reading. And some students, I always tell them, have both up, have the video up and have that transcript off to the side where it's highlighting what I'm saying, so that they're getting both of the best of both worlds. But really my inspiration by everything I do in my teaching is the end goal of the student learning what I'm trying to teach to them.
Fantastic. Well, Linsey and Marnie, I want to thank you on behalf of everybody, all of our team here at Echo 360. Thank you for all the work that you've been leading, that you're going to continue to lead. You're not going to be able to get rid of us because we're hanging on to you. And it's just been great to see the impact so far, and can't wait for more ahead there at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. Very proud of the work. And thank you all for tuning in to this episode of Echocast. You can check out more episodes just like this and other resources that we have for inspired learning at echo360.com.
Thanks for tuning in to Echocast. For more information on these and other inspired learning solutions, visit us at echo360.com.